I still remember the way Ashley said it. Not with rage. Not in the middle of a fight. Not even in a moment of weakness. She said it the same way someone says the milk's gone bad. Calm, distant, like the love she once had for me had simply expired. I don't love you anymore. She said while folding laundry. We were in the bedroom. I had just gotten home from work, long day, back-to-back meetings, and I was already running on low. I leaned against the doorway, watching her fold a t-shirt I probably hadn't worn in months, and before I could even take off my shoes, she dropped the line like she was reading off a shopping list. No build-up, no sigh, just those 5 words that change a man's whole life. At first, I just stood there. I didn't say a word. Not because I was stunned, I was, but more because something in me already knew. The way she'd been moving around the house lately. Quiet, detached, cold in a way that wasn't angry, just uninterested. I've been trying to pretend it was stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed with work. Maybe she needed space. But the truth? She had already checked out long before her mouth caught up with her heart. Okay, I said after a moment. She stopped folding for a second, like she was expecting more. Maybe a fight. Maybe a meltdown. Maybe one of those dramatic scenes you see in movies where the guy starts pleading, saying, "How can you say that after everything we've built?" But I'm not that guy. I've never believed in clinging to someone who's already let go. So instead, I asked, "When did you stop?" She hesitated, looked down at the bed. I don't know, a while ago. I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe I could feel it again. That line stuck with me. Maybe I could feel it again. I gave her everything: stability, loyalty, affection. I wasn't a perfect man, but I showed up. I did the work. I built a life for us. And the entire time, she was quietly wondering if the love would magically return, while I was out there still believing we were a team. That night, I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't ask her to reconsider. I slept on the couch, woke up early, went for a long walk, clear my head, and by the time I got back, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to try to win her back. I wasn't going to sit in limbo while she figured out if I was still worthy of love. I was done. That weekend, while she was out, I packed my essentials into 2 duffel bags. Some clothes, my laptop, a few books, and the watch my dad gave me before he passed. I left the house key on the table, took one last look at the place I thought we'd grow old in, and walked out. No goodbye note. No dramatic exit speech. Just gone. I moved into a short-term rental downtown. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, exposed brick, a mattress on the floor for the first few nights. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Quiet. Honest. No pretense. No performance. The first few days felt like detox. Not from her, but from the version of myself that kept trying to hold together something she'd already let fall apart. It's wild how quickly your perspective changes when you're alone with your thoughts and no longer trying to be loved by someone who stopped seeing you. I didn't text her, didn't call to check in, didn't ask if she needed anything, groceries, help with bills, nothing. We were married, sure, but once she said she didn't love me, that changed everything. She cut the cord, and I wasn't about to keep pouring into a cup that had been empty for God knows how long. She made her choice, and I made mine. You know what hurts the most? It's not the rejection. It's realizing how long she kept me around for convenience. Emotionally, financially, logistically. She got all the benefits of a husband while slowly disconnecting from everything that made us us. That's why I didn't go back. That's why I never sent money, never offered to help with anything. Because when someone says, "I don't love you," what they're also saying is, "I don't value what you bring anymore." So I stopped bringing it. I focused on rebuilding. Quietly. Privately. I didn't tell mutual friends. Didn't post vague quotes online. I just kept working. I started eating better. Got back into reading. Hit the gym again. Rediscovered pieces of myself I'd put on a shelf, trying to keep her happy. And you know what happened? I started to feel whole. Not overnight, but slowly. Morning by morning. Silence by silence. I didn't hate Ashley. I still don't. I just realized the version of me who loved her no longer existed, because that man only lived in the presence of someone who valued him. And she didn't. So I let go. She didn't reach out. Not for the first month, anyway. I imagined she thought I'd come crawling back. That I'd check in. That I'd keep being dependable, even after being discarded. But I didn't. Because when a man truly understands his worth, he doesn't beg to be kept. He walks, and he means it. And I meant it. It took exactly 36 days before Ashley reached out. Not with an apology. Not with an "I miss you." Nothing like that. She sent a voice note. 30 seconds of surface-level small talk that didn't even sound like her. Almost like she was speaking to a distant cousin instead of the man she once promised to grow old with. "Hey, just wondering if you had a minute to talk. Let me know." I didn't respond. Not out of pettiness. Not to play games. But because I didn't owe her anything. When a woman tells you she doesn't love you, and you believe her, you don't circle back like a lost dog when she whistles. You keep walking. Still, I won't lie, the message got to me. Because no matter how strong you are, no matter how calm you seem, there's always that part of you that remembers how good it used to be. The memories don't vanish. They echo. But that's all they are, echoes. Ghosts from a life that no longer exists. And I had no intention of chasing ghosts. The next message came 3 days later. This one was different. "Hi, I know we haven't talked since you left. I just wanted to check if you could help with the insurance renewal. I forgot how that whole setup worked." There it was. The first real attempt to bring me back in. Not with love, but with obligation. I smiled. Not because I was amused, but because it was so predictable. See, Ashley didn't just lose a husband when I walked out. She lost a silent support system. I was the one who made sure everything ran. Bills paid. Appointments scheduled. Things fixed before they broke. She never saw those things, never thanked me for them, because she assumed they'd always be done. But love doesn't survive where it's taken for granted. I didn't reply. No passive-aggressive text. No emoji. No answer at all. The silence said more than I ever could. A week later, she tried again. This time she called. I let it ring. Then the texts came faster. One after another. Each one a bit more emotional than the last. "Rodrigo, I just need a little help with the utilities. They sent a late notice." I didn't expect everything to be so hard. "I'm not asking to get back together. Just for a little help, please." And that's when I knew. She never thought I'd actually leave. She thought I'd be hurt, maybe angry, but still loyal. Still willing to pick up the pieces. Still willing to protect her from the weight of her own decisions. But that version of me, the man who would have given her everything just for a scrap of affection, died the moment she looked me in the eyes and said she didn't love me. I stayed quiet, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I needed her to understand I was done. Not angry, not bitter, just done. Done being her safety net. Done funding a life where I wasn't even wanted. Done loving someone who only remembered my worth after losing access to it. I could imagine how her days were going. Little inconveniences turning into disasters. Groceries costing more than she expected. The rent feeling heavier without my income. Her car needing service and no one there to call the mechanic for her. She was facing the same reality I carried for years, alone. But I didn't gloat. I didn't post cryptic quotes online or share gym selfies with captions like "Revenge Season." I just kept moving. Quiet. Solid. Unreachable. Friends started noticing. Some asked what happened. I didn't give details. Just told them I'd outgrown the marriage and myself. Some of her friends reached out, too. "Rodrigo, I think she really regrets it. She's not doing well. She talks about you all the time." I appreciated their messages, but they didn't change a thing. Regret doesn't rebuild trust, and desperation doesn't restore connection. She wanted to be free. She wanted independence. She wanted to find out what life would be like without me. So now she had it, in full, unfiltered. And this is what a lot of people forget. When you walk out of someone's life with dignity, when you leave quietly and don't look back, that's the part they remember forever. Not the yelling, not the begging, but the silence. Because silence forces them to sit with themselves. Ashley tried once more, about 2 months after I left. She wrote, "I made a mistake. I miss what we had. I didn't realize how much I needed you until you were gone. It was raw, emotional, real maybe, but it came too late. Because by then, I'd already found peace. Not in another woman. Not in revenge. In stillness. In being whole by myself. And when a man reaches that place, truly reaches it, he doesn't go back. Not for nostalgia. Not for guilt. Not even for love. Because real peace doesn't beg to be re-explored. It builds walls where there used to be doors. By the time Ashley realized what she'd done, I had already become someone she didn't recognize. Not colder, not angry, just distant in a way that was permanent. It's strange how people don't value consistency until they feel the emptiness that comes after it's gone. And in her case, it took a few months of radio silence for the cracks to form. I could see it in her voice messages. At first, she was proud, neutral almost. Then came the polite check-ins. Then the financial questions. And finally, the messages that started at 2 a.m. and were filled with pauses, sighs, and trembles she tried to mask as strength. But I never answered. Not because I wanted revenge, because I was finally at peace. And I wasn't willing to trade that for anything, especially not for someone who had looked me in the eyes and said, "I don't love you anymore." That sentence doesn't have a rewind button. No matter how many times they try to reframe it, or explain it away, or claim they were confused or in a bad place. Some words are final the moment they're spoken. I saw her once, unintentionally. It was about 6 months after I walked away. I was at a gas station just outside the city on my way to a weekend trip I'd planned solo. Something I'd never done before, not when we were married. I was always waiting for her availability, her mood, her schedule. Now I just packed a bag, got in the car, and drove. Freedom feels like silence that no longer needs to be filled. Anyway, I pulled up to Pump 4, and when I went inside to grab a bottle of water, there she was standing at the checkout, hair tied up, eyes tired, staring down at her phone like she didn't want to be recognized. She looked up. We locked eyes, and for a second, time bent. I saw everything in her expression, the shock, the regret, the panic, the desperation to say something meaningful. She parted her lips as if to call my name, but I didn't give her the chance. I nodded once, polite, distant, and walked right past her. I paid in cash, walked back to the car, pulled out onto the highway like she was just another stranger from a life I'd already left. Because she was. After that, the messages stopped coming. Maybe she got the message. Maybe seeing me, healthy, calm, unbothered, was louder than any silence I'd given her before. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to tell anyone what happened. I just kept showing up for myself. That's how healing works when it's real. Not through rebounds. Not through online quotes. Not through pretending you're better off. But through discipline, structure, solitude. Through choosing yourself every single day until it stops feeling like an act and starts becoming your nature. I know what people would say. That's harsh. She admitted her mistake. She's just human. I get it. But here's the thing. I didn't leave because she made a mistake. I left because she didn't value the man I was when I gave her everything. When I showed up, day in and day out, not asking for applause, just presence, just respect, just connection. And she couldn't offer that. Instead, she chose distance, chose detachment, chose silence. Until one morning, she folded laundry and said, "I don't love you anymore." Like she was announcing the weather. That sentence, simple and flat as it was, changed the entire course of my life. And hers. Because I wasn't the man who falls apart after being rejected. I was the man who listens. And when someone tells me who they are, or what they no longer feel, I don't argue. I act. So no, I didn't respond to the late-night calls. I didn't send money when she hinted about her car insurance. I didn't ask if she was eating or if she was okay, because that's not my role anymore. She forfeited that version of me. And once I'm gone, I'm really gone. What I've learned is that silence is often mistaken for cruelty. But in reality, silence is sometimes the most compassionate response. Because anything else would create false hope. Anything else would give her a reason to believe the door was still open. But I had sealed that door with dignity. Quietly. Completely. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not that I yelled or cursed or got even, but that I became unreachable, untouchable. And that's what a man becomes when he rebuilds himself after being discarded. Not harder, not meaner, just unavailable to people who saw his value only after they lost access to it. I still carry some memories. That's normal. No one erases years like it's a whiteboard. Sometimes I remember the way she used to laugh, or the way she'd hum while brushing her teeth, or how her hands felt small when she held my wrist while we watched TV. But those memories don't ache anymore. They just exist, like old photographs in a drawer you don't open unless you're moving. And I'm always moving forward now. She, on the other hand, will remember me as the man who would have done anything until he did nothing. Because love doesn't return on command. And once you've made peace with being unloved, you stop offering your warmth to people who only knew how to burn you with it. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who gets a text like that. I'm on an intimacy strike. No conversation. No context. Just that. Like sex was a faucet she could shut off whenever she felt like it. And I'd be expected to stay standing there, hands open, waiting for her to turn it back on. I'm Rodrigo, 38, entrepreneur, calm by nature, not a fan of shouting, and not built for games. I've always believed that a man's strength shows most in how quiet he can be when everything around him is trying to provoke a reaction. And this wasn't going to be any different. Let me give you a bit of context first. I met Amanda 5 years ago. She worked in PR, sharp and polished. The kind of woman who commands a room without raising her voice. That's what drew me to her. She wasn't the loudest, but she had presence. I respected that. I value a woman who holds her own, but more importantly, I value peace. And Amanda? In the beginning, she gave me that. We dated for about 1.5 years before moving in together. I was already established in my career. I ran a logistics firm with steady contracts, healthy margins, and a small but efficient team. I had my own place, modern, organized, not flashy. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Just live well, within my means and with standards. Amanda was still figuring herself out. She didn't love her job, wanted to pivot into coaching or content creation. She wasn't sure. I encouraged it, told her I'd take care of the bills for a while so she could focus on building something of her own. That's what you do when you're building with someone. You create space for them to grow. At first, she was grateful, made dinner, hugged me when I got home, left notes on the bathroom mirror, told me she admired my discipline, my focus, said it felt safe being with someone who wasn't running from himself. But then something shifted, slow, subtle, like a slow leak under the floorboards you don't notice until the wood caves in. She started pulling away. Less touch, less eye contact. Conversations became short. I'd ask how her day was and get a one-word reply. I chalked it up to stress. Everyone hits rough patches. I stayed steady. I'd wake up early, make her coffee, check in during the day. I thought consistency would eventually recenter her. But instead, the distance grew. Then came that message. It was a Tuesday night. I was working in my home office, finishing up some invoices. Around 10 p.m., I got a ping on my phone. Amanda, I'm on an intimacy strike. Don't expect anything until further notice. That was it. I stared at it, waited for a follow-up. Nothing. So I got up, walked into the living room where she was curled up on the couch watching something on Netflix, blanket over her legs, phone in hand. I asked, "You sent this?" She didn't even pause the show, just replied, "Yeah." "What?" She shrugged. "I'm just not in the mood lately. And honestly, I feel like you take me for granted. Maybe this will reset things a bit." I stood there in silence. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I've learned that in relationships, your power is in how you respond when you're being tested. And this was a test. A game. A move to see what I'd do. I nodded once, turned around, and went back to my office. She wanted a reaction. I gave her none. That night, I didn't touch her in bed. Didn't say goodnight. Just laid down, closed my eyes, and stared at the ceiling, not angry, just clear. You see, there's a kind of clarity that only comes when someone shows you exactly who they are. When someone turns love into leverage. When someone weaponizes connection to control you. The next few days, I stayed silent. I still paid every bill. Still cooked. Still made sure the house ran smoothly. But I didn't engage. No small talk. No touch. No checking in. I became polite. Formal. Like a guest in my own home. And Amanda? She acted like nothing had changed. Went about her day. Took long showers. Left makeup on the bathroom counter. Came home for brunches with new shopping bags. And every night, climbed into bed, turned her back to me, and scrolled until she fell asleep. It wasn't just about sex anymore. It was about value. I was giving everything, structure, peace, provision, and in return, I was getting silence, conditions, emotional absence dressed up as boundaries. That's when I made a quiet decision. I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to match her energy. I opened a private checking account, rerouted my direct deposits, canceled our shared streaming services, set limits on her card, kept groceries and essentials flowing, but the luxury spending? That stopped. I didn't say a word, just moved differently. The following week, she tried to buy one of her expensive monthly skincare subscriptions, declined. Next day, her boutique gym sent an alert, payment failed. On Friday, she tried ordering sushi for lunch, blocked. That night, she finally asked, "Hey, did the card stop working?" I looked up from my laptop. "No, I just adjusted our arrangement." What does that mean? Well, since intimacy is conditional now, I figured the benefits can be too. I'm on a financial strike until further notice. She blinked, confused, then defensive. Are you serious? As serious as your message. Her jaw tightened. You're punishing me for setting a boundary? No, I'm respecting it. You set your terms. I'm setting mine. She stormed off that night, but I stayed calm. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need her affection bought through manipulation. What I needed was mutual respect. And if she couldn't give that, I wasn't about to keep pouring energy into a one-sided arrangement. That was the moment she realized something she had forgotten. I didn't stay because I couldn't leave. I stayed because I believed we were building something. But when the construction stops, the funding does too. And that was just the beginning. A funny thing happens when you stop giving someone everything they took for granted. They panic. It didn't take long after I cut the extras for Amanda to notice. And to be clear, I didn't shut off the essentials. The mortgage was still paid. The fridge was stocked. The lights stayed on. I'm not petty. I'm principled. But the luxuries? The perks? The things she assumed would just keep coming while she waged her little intimacy strike. Those were gone. It started with small things. A blocked gym payment. A denied sushi order. Then came the missed delivery from that boutique wellness store she ordered from monthly, $190 worth of supplements and skincare nonsense. I knew the moment she got the payment failed email because she stomped into my office holding her phone like it was a smoking gun. "Rodrigo, did you cancel my card?" I looked up calmly. "Nope. I just moved our finances into a system that matches the energy you're giving me." She blinked. "Excuse me, you said you were on strike?" I replied, setting down my pen. "So am I." Her eyes narrowed. "So you're punishing me for not wanting sex?" I shook my head. "No, I'm responding to you turning affection into a negotiation tactic. You want partnership benefits? Then we operate like partners. Otherwise, you do your thing, and I do mine." She scoffed and walked out without another word. But the seed had been planted, and it grew fast. That night, she made dinner for the first time in 2 months. Pasta, garlic bread, even set the table with candles like she used to when we first moved in together. I didn't comment on it. I sat, ate, thanked her, and cleaned up afterward without any sarcastic remarks or expectations. I could feel her watching me, measuring my reactions, waiting for a cue that I was coming back to her terms. She didn't get one. Over the next few days, Amanda started acting noticeably different. Softer tone, casual touches on the shoulder, asking how my day was, offering to do the groceries. Even started wearing perfume again, not for her own vibe, but the kind she used to wear when we went on dates. But I knew what it was. It wasn't love. It was strategy. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me who paid without question, solved everything, and asked for nothing but mutual respect. By day 4, the act cracked. We were watching a show, or pretending to. She muted the TV and said, "I've been thinking maybe it's time to end the strike." I turned my head slowly. "Strike?" She gave a sheepish smile. "Yeah, I guess I was just frustrated. But I miss you, and I think we've both made our point." I stared at her for a beat, then 2, and said nothing. Her smile faded a little. "You don't have anything to say?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "Let me ask you something," I said. "Did it ever occur to you that I might not be interested anymore?" She blinked. "What?" I mean, you flipped the switch on intimacy like it was a faucet. No discussion. No context. Just, I'm on strike. And now you want to flip it back like nothing happened. Her mouth opened, then closed. I kept going. I didn't stop caring because you rejected me. I stopped caring because you weaponized something sacred. You tried to control me through absence, assuming I'd beg, crawl, or prove myself worthy of affection. I didn't mean it like that, she whispered. You meant exactly that, I said firmly. You wanted to feel powerful. You thought I'd just keep pouring energy, money, time, while getting nothing in return. And now that I've mirrored your energy, you're realizing that power game has a cost. She stood up, arms crossed. So what now? You're done with me? I'm done with being manipulated. I'm done rewarding disrespect. If you want something real again, it won't come from sex. It'll come from honesty, accountability, effort. She sat back down, visibly shaken. I thought we were stronger than this, she said quietly. We were, until you decided to test that strength with conditions. We didn't talk much the rest of the evening. She went to bed early. I stayed up late, reading on the balcony, listening to the quiet. And in that quiet, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: control. Not over her, but over myself. She tried again the next day. Breakfast in bed, soft apologies, subtle flirtation. That night, she stood at the bedroom door in one of those lace nightgowns she hadn't worn since the honeymoon phase. I looked up from my book. I'm not in the mood. Her expression collapsed instantly. Are you serious? As serious as you were when you said don't expect anything. She started to cry, and I sat there, calm, grounded, watching her finally feel what I had been carrying silently for weeks. I'm trying, she whispered. And I'm listening, I replied. But I'm not rushing. Respect doesn't come back just because you snap your fingers. She walked away that night, slamming the door behind her. And for the first time, I didn't follow. Because when a man truly detaches, it's not loud. It's quiet, cold, complete. She had set the rules. And now, she was living in the result of her own design. And deep down, she knew it. There comes a moment when even if everything is fixed, you don't want it anymore. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you finally understand your own worth, and you're done offering it to someone who only woke up after losing access to it. That's where I was. After Amanda tried to end the strike, after the makeup attempts, the emotional manipulation, the lace nightgown routine, I stayed exactly where I was. Calm, detached, not out of coldness, but clarity. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. The next few days, I watched her unravel. She went from playful and seductive to anxious and irritable, from soft apologies to guilt-tripping. Then came the gaslighting. Why are you still holding this over my head? I said I was sorry. You're punishing me more than I deserve. I didn't entertain any of it, because this wasn't about punishment. It was about pattern. She wanted to act like her strike was some small lapse, a bad mood, a heat-of-the-moment decision. But for me, it wasn't about the act itself. It was about the message behind it. She turned off emotional and physical connection like flipping a light switch. No warning, no discussion, just, you're not getting this anymore. And now, because I wasn't jumping at the chance to return, she wanted to reframe the entire situation as if I was being petty. But I wasn't stuck on the past. I had simply outgrown the cycle. A few days later, she finally broke. We were sitting at the dining table. I was having coffee. She was pretending to scroll her phone. And then, out of nowhere, she slammed it down and said, "You're not even trying." I looked up slowly. Trying what? To move past this. To fix us. I nodded, took a sip of coffee, then said, I did try. For months. Before you ever typed that message. Before the strike. I tried every day you ignored me. Every time I reached out and got nothing. Every night you turned away without a word. I tried then. She went quiet. So I continued. But when someone slams the door, they can't be surprised it doesn't reopen on their schedule. That's not how respect works. Tears welled up in her eyes. So that's it? You're just done? I put the cup down, looked her directly in the eyes. I was done the moment I realized you were more interested in control than connection. The moment I saw you weren't trying to fix anything. You were trying to win something. She started crying. Softly at first, then full on. I miss you, she whispered. I miss us. And I believe her. I believe that in that moment, she really did feel the loss. But love that only shows up when the comfort is gone isn't love. It's fear. She wasn't missing me. She was missing the version of herself that had total access to a man who never asked for anything in return. And now that I was no longer available, she realized how much she had relied on the idea that I'd always be there. I stood up and walked to the window, looked out at the street, people walking, cars passing, a normal afternoon. Then I said, Amanda, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm not interested in rebuilding something that you chose to burn. She wiped her face with her sleeve. People make mistakes, Rodrigo. They do, I nodded. But not everyone gets to come back from them, especially when the mistake was a calculated move disguised as a boundary. Silence. I could feel her cracking again. That desperation, that realization that no amount of effort now could undo the quiet damage she caused day after day by withdrawing everything and expecting everything in return. She walked toward me, tried to hold my hand. I stepped back gently. No, I said, calm but final. She froze. I'm not your enemy, she whispered. I know, I replied, but you're also not my partner. Those words hit hard. She closed her eyes and exhaled like someone absorbing a shot they didn't see coming. I don't even know who I am without you, she said, barely audible. And right there, I understood. That's why she was trying so hard to restore things. Not because of love, but because I was her mirror. And now that I was no longer reflecting admiration, attention, resources, and presence, she was facing herself alone. I picked up my keys and walked to the door. She stood there, still in disbelief. Where are you going? To take a walk. To think. To breathe. Will you come back? I looked at her, and this time there was no tension in my chest. No sadness. Just a quiet truth. I don't know. But if I do, it won't be for what we had. It'll have to be for something brand new, with someone who doesn't weaponize love. And I walked out. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. We talked. He listened. We laughed about old stories. Ate takeout. It felt normal. Light. And I realized this was what I'd been missing. Not friendship, but peace. Clarity. Feeling like I wasn't being watched, measured, or manipulated. Amanda kept calling. I didn't pick up. She texted long paragraphs, guilt, apologies, memories. I didn't reply, not to be cruel, but because I didn't want to go back into a cage I had already freed myself from. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't miss her. I missed who I used to be before I forgot how to say no. And now I say with pride, you don't get to pause love and press play again when it suits you. Some things once broken stay broken, not out of hate, but out of growth. And I grew. Without her. And I'm not looking back.